Hello, I'm Dominic Walker, JMW's Inside Man. My guest is Rachel Phillips. Rachel is a solicitor within JMW's Employment Law Department. So, Rachel, we've got the Queen's Platinum Jubilee coming up very soon. Employees will no doubt be looking forward to a nice long weekend. Do employers have to give employees that weekend off then?
I mean, yeah, as you said, many of us have very exciting plans to make the most of this additional time off next week to celebrate the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. But it may come as a surprise to some to learn that there is actually no statutory duty for an employer to allow their employees the additional day off after it's nominated as a bank holiday. So this entitlement is governed by an employee's individual contract of employment alongside the working time regulations of 1998. Bank holidays actually don't have to be given as paid leave, and an employer can choose to include bank holidays as part of a worker's statutory annual leave or not. Essentially, there are three different possible scenarios that we see in practice when we look at employees' contracts, which determine whether they will actually be allowed this extra Jubilee day off. So in the first scenario, employees will be entitled to the additional day off as paid leave if their contract clearly states that their leave is X amount of days plus bank holidays. So this wording is not restricted to plus the usual bank holidays, usually observed in England and Wales. It doesn't list out the bank holidays you're entitled to. It's very broad, which means employees can enjoy the entitlement to any additional bank holidays that are introduced. In the second scenario, employees will potentially be entitled to this additional time off if their contract either states that annual leave is a certain number of days plus the 8 bank holidays in England and Wales, or that their annual leave is given as one figure inclusive of bank holidays. For example, you have 28 days holiday inclusive of bank holidays. In these instances, the bank holidays haven't been specified, which means the employee could, in theory, book this additional bank holiday as paid time off, but it might mean losing your entitlement to one of the later bank holidays in the year if the employer is trying to apply quite a strict policy in relation to this entitlement. The third scenario, sadly, it's not a good one for employees. They won't be entitled to time off if their contract specifically lists out the bank holidays they're entitled to receive paid time off for. For example, it will list out Christmas Day, Boxing Day, New Year's Day, etc. Or it states you're only entitled to the usual bank holidays in England and Wales, which doesn't leave any room for any additional entitlement, sadly.
And you've helpfully given those three scenarios, Rachel. How can employers get a little bit of advice from you? How can you help?
So really, employers need to check their employees' contracts of employment and see what the wording allows for to establish any entitlement to the additional bank holiday that's coming next week. Importantly, employers should really be communicating with their employees as soon as possible so they can plan their time off accordingly and to avoid any potential disputes about time off where the wording is a bit unclear, like we saw in the second scenario. If the contractual wording doesn't allow your employees time off, or if it's silent on the issue, then we'd really encourage employers to consider if they think that it would be practical or financially viable to allow giving their employees this additional time off, as obviously the employers would see this as a really good benefit and it would make them think more highly of their employer. If this is something employers do want to regulate more closely in the future, they should consider really tightening their contractual wording to clarify employee entitlement to ensure there's no room for any confusion or dispute if this does arise in the future. There are actually exciting proposals for this additional bank holiday to be made permanent. So now is a really, really good time for employers to take a longer term view of all the contractual issues we've discussed and tighten the wording so it's clear in the future, everyone knows where they stand. And if anyone does want to get in touch with the employment team here at JMW to talk about advice on employee entitlement to time off or look at your contract wording more generally, then you can find our details on the website and we're always very, very happy to help.
Excellent, Rachel. And I would encourage employers to get in touch with you. You can email insideman@jmw.co.uk or call 0161 82 81 999. I'm Dominic Walker, JMW's Inside Man.